The attack on the US consulate in Benghazi was striking for a number of reasons. The date, for starters, September the 11th. Then there was the toll, 4 Americans dead. But what is perhaps most striking a year later are the inconsistencies. The US version of events compared to recollections of eyewitnesses and the facts on the ground. This was an attack that went on for 2 hours, and when it was over, Chris Stevens, the US ambassador to Libya, was dead, and his mission was in full retreat. 1 year later, there are 6 major questions that still have to be answered about the events of that night. Well, the State Department maintained that this attack came out of the blue, that there was no warning. But the truth is that people were very nervous in the compound that night. Sean Smith, the information officer who was to die later that night, emailed to a friend of his that evening, saying that he feared he might die. And he certainly had his reasons. And the warning signs were various. There had been 6 months of attacks on embassies across Benghazi, including the American embassy, which had been bombed, and the British embassy, which had been attacked. And there was a lot of radical activity. There was also the date, September the 11th. There was the fact that in Egypt that morning, the Cairo embassy had been stormed and other embassies were being attacked around the world, so people were nervous about that. And there was also a warning 2 days beforehand from the key Islamist militias in Benghazi that they couldn't guarantee the security of the embassy if a prime minister from a secular party won the election on September the 12th. Sources say that on the afternoon of the attack there were cars circling the compound, apparently on a reconnaissance mission. That morning, staff reported seeing one of the policemen supposed to be guarding the compound had gone up to the second floor balcony of a neighbouring building, and he was taking photographs of the inside of the compound. The staff were concerned enough about this to cable both Washington and the Libyan Foreign Ministry. The first thing anyone in the compound knew about the attack was when the doors burst open and armed men burst through. The Libyan staff ran away and the attackers set fire to the guardhouse. Then they found behind the guardhouse some jerry cans full of fuel, and they set off across the compound towards the villa. The villa was the ambassador's residence. 1 guard plus the ambassador plus Sean Smith ran inside and bolted the door. The guard then led them into a safe room, actually a series of rooms, within the villa which had been fortified and the gates barred, and locked them in. The attackers got to the villa and used an RPG to blow in the front doors. They stormed inside, couldn't find anybody, and couldn't get through to the safe room. The United States insists there was a major firefight that raged for nearly an hour across the compound. But when I went there the day after the attack, evidence of a battle was hard to find. Smoke had obviously poured from the windows, engulfing the various buildings, but there were very few bullet holes. I could only find one impact from an RPG, which was the round used to blow open the front doors. If there were exchanges of fire, there's no evidence of either bullet holes or the casings. The only place where there was a serious firefight was the rear gate. I counted 23 rounds fired into the compound from outside, and 6 rounds returned. But this firefight, serious as it must have been, appears nowhere in the official accounts. The access to the safe room was a gate made of iron bars instead of a solid door. When the attackers broke into the villa and were unable to break open this gate, they set fire to the furniture in the main part of the villa. It was the smoke from this fire that poured into the safe room through these iron bars and ended up killing the ambassador and Sean Smith. When the smoke poured into the safe room, the security guard tried to lead the ambassador and Sean Smith to safety. There was an escape hatch in the wall, and the agent pushed his way through to the other side. But he turned round to find that neither the ambassador nor Smith were following him. He scrambled back inside and tried to find them, but was nearly overcome by smoke himself. Just over a mile down the road there was a CIA base. When the agents there heard the noise of the fighting, 6 of them scrambled into an armoured jeep and raced to the rescue. They arrived at the compound 45 minutes after the battle had begun, and fighting died away. The existence of the CIA base in Benghazi has not been mentioned in any of the official inquiries into the attack, nor has the purpose of this annex ever been disclosed. Nevertheless, it was the CIA who came to the rescue. The CIA took control of the compound when they arrived, ordering the diplomatic staff to evacuate. They then searched the villa for the bodies of Smith and the ambassador. After 20 minutes, they found the body of Smith, but couldn't locate that of the ambassador. Shooting began outside, and the CIA decided it was unsafe to remain. After the CIA left, curious onlookers came into the compound, and it was they who found the body of Stevens. They found him lying inside the safe room and took his body out through an open window. Video footage of the time shows them trying to revive him, but they couldn't find any kind of official vehicle, so somebody volunteered with their car to drive him to the Benghazi medical center. There he arrived covered in smoke and unconscious, and doctors fought unsuccessfully to revive him. Susan Rice, America's ambassador to the United Nations, blamed the attack on protests against the film Innocence of Muslims. Evidence from the scene forced her to admit that it had been a spontaneous attack. That admission was pounced on by Republicans, who later blocked her nomination as Obama's new Secretary of State. The most far-reaching implication of this attack was that it changed American public opinion. The Obama administration justified NATO's intervention in the Libyan civil war by saying that it was ushering in democracy. But many Americans are wondering why they're supporting a country that allowed their ambassador to die.